we had three of the largest studios in North America filled to the brim with sets. I mean, some of them were 2-3 stories high, and we were blowing them up every 2 weeks. So we were constantly working on building new stuff, and we, as actors, it's such a pleasure because, you're asked to take on this kind of otherworldly, very large narrative, and to actually have it there, as opposed to just a green screen, is so helpful because it informs the way you make choices in the scene. If something's built or the ship is built a certain way and you're actually floating there in the ship and you're upside down, all those things inform the choices that you make. And, it gives you, it kind of knocks you out of your comfort zone a little bit, and you maybe make some different adjustments or risks in your performance.
Don't I do?
Just pretend I'm not here.
Most of your all set on the ship?
Most of mine is, yeah. When you meet Holden, he's a second officer on an ice hauler, which is kind of the modern day equivalent of like an oil rig or an oil tanker. He's transporting ice, fresh water across the solar system, which at that point is a very precious commodity for obvious reasons. And he's not a guy who has ever really wanted a major load of responsibility. He spent most of his life running from answering to anybody, and has passed up promotion after promotion. He likes his life the way it is, simple. He wants to live it the way he wants to live it, and he comes across as stressful. And just by answering it, this very small altruistic act gets sucked into this much larger conspiracy, and he kind of inadvertently becomes revolutionary. Which he doesn't really know about until he actually gets off a ship someplace and his face is plastered all over the place. So yeah, for the most part, he's on the ship.
Now, so you've done a lot of what I'd consider kind of sci-fi and geeky roles with The Covenant and Sky High.
Yeah.
Now this, do you actively seek out those roles, or how do you go about choosing your roles and picking something like this that, and on the surface, can seem very, it's sci-fi, it's pulpy,
sure.
But there's human elements in it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially for this project in particular, I was a big fan of the books, and I think what really drew me to the Expanse and what drew me to Holden, and what drew me to the novels themselves, is that for so many years, especially for like 20 years or so, most of science fiction has been hard science fiction. It's about the math behind wormholes, or the technology and devices, and that's great. I really love that stuff. But this is very much a space opera, in the truest sense of the word. I mean, it really is a human story. We focus mostly on 3 people, essentially. I mean, it is a massive, set piece. It's a massive narrative. It's a huge adventure. But at the end of the day, it is a drama about 3 people who come across a conspiracy and need to find answers. And for me, what drew me to this project, and what draws me to every project I attach myself to, especially in the beginning, is the writing, it's the scripts. And we had the novels, which are beloved for good reason. Mark and Hawk, who were nominated for Children of Men and wrote Iron Man, among many other things. We just had such a pedigree of talent behind the camera. That it was incredibly ambitious to set the goal of trying to bring this to life. I mean, especially having read the novels before, I was like, this is something. I mean, but we had all the right pieces to make it the way it should be, and I think we accomplished that. And I'm really excited about it. I mean, I've only seen the first one, but I'm very proud of it. And I've never seen a science fiction narrative in particular that has so many different tones hang together so harmoniously to tell a singular story. So like, James's story, for example, he's on the ship, and it's very much of just trying to stay alive, minute to minute, hour to hour, very much a tale of people, the survivors of a ship sinking, in the middle of a very hostile environment, just trying to make it through and growing every step of the way. And then you've got Miller, Thomas Jane's world, which is very much a noir story about a hard-boiled detective who's just been ground down through corruption and real world stuff for a long time. And then Officer Orwell's world, which is very much a political conspiracy narrative, all work. They all work together to tell this very human story. So, I think we accomplished that in the show. They certainly accomplished that in the books. And so, long answer to your question, but that in many ways is what drew me to it. I found it really unique for sci-fi, for any kind of narrative, really. So what else is going on, guys?
So you were talking about doing the practical effects, doing wire work. How was that, doing that kind of stuff?
It was wild. I'd done some wire work in the past for both Sky High and the Covenant, and this was more challenging. I mean, it was more extensive. We were doing it over long periods of time, and you're shooting television, so you don't have as much time to get it done correctly. Plus, we're in these spacesuits that are great looking, but they're bulky and they're not, designed to be ergonomically correct. I mean, so if you lean back, it's a really heavy helmet, and a heavy backpack, and you just flip like immediately. So you have to learn kind of how to navigate the wire work in these incredibly, hot suits that, by the end it was so gross they could be walking on their own right now. I mean, but it was, fun again. Like, I was saying before, like actually doing the practical wire work and floating around and actually being way up in the air does inform the way you make choices in a scene, and it just opens another element up to what's possible. So challenging but fun.
Was it more challenging than doing love scenes in 0G? And was that a stunt double in the first episode? Was it a body double?
No. It's not a body double. Thank you very much.
Well, good job.
Thank you. As far as I know, as far as I know, I don't think allegedly it wasn't a body double.
Find out in post.
Exactly. It was. That's actually funny. There's a funny story there. I had injured my ribs actually, like not too far before that, and the harness for that scene, obviously because we're naked, so like you don't want the straps up top because when you go in for close-ups, you just don't want to paint those out. So it's a low harness that kind of hugs you around the ribs. Yeah. And I'm leaning back, right? And, just by doing that, you put a pressure on it. They're all right there. And then she's on top of me with her weight. It was... I don't mean... We shot it really fast, which I was very grateful for, but it was definitely uncomfortable.
Not so sexy.
No, not sexy at all. I think, and it was actually a concern of mine when I read the script. It was the only one that I had because I thought it was a great idea and concept. I just had no idea how to pull it off.
I mean, it came out great though.
I'm really happy with it, but I couldn't conceptualize in my mind when I read it. I was like, how do we do this without it being hokey, or like, kind of ridiculous? And the credit has to go to Terry McDonough, who's just an incredible director and was able to, pull it off in a way that was like classy and cool.